Hello everyone, good day. My name is Protesilaos, also known as Prot. Today I want to do another video on philosophy. This is the usual format that I have started since a few weeks ago, where I am walking and talking. And I am here in the mountains of Cyprus, the Troodos mountain range. And today is, I think, the 25th of October. It's Tuesday, the 25th, I think. Anyhow, the topic I want to cover today revolves around two concepts. One is forgiveness, and two is hubris. Hubris may be a word you are not familiar with, or maybe you have heard it in some context, but I'm not sure what it means. So don't worry, I will explain everything in this presentation. Let me start with forgiveness, which is a more familiar topic. It is a concept that has religious underpinnings, of course, but I will not approach it in a religious sense. I want to consider it philosophically. Of course, there is an overlap between religion and philosophy, because every fully fledged religion is informed by philosophical considerations, of course. But let's not go into that overlap now. Let's talk about forgiveness as such, starting with a story. A few years ago, I was invited to a gathering. It was a table with about 20 people sitting at the table, and this was on a Sunday after church. They were celebrating an event. It doesn't matter what it was, but it was like an extended family meeting. So I was there as well, and there was food and everything and offerings, so the usual kind of gathering, sitting at the table. There was this relative who was organizing the event, an old lady, a distant relative of mine, and at some point she made a remark about another relative and the fact that 30 years ago this other relative did something wrong and damaged her property, something related to her property. Nothing major, but an event that nonetheless caused some physical, some financial loss of a given item of a certain value. And 30 years later, this relative of mine was still reminiscing about this event, was still bringing it up, and decided to bring it up in this family gathering. So everyone knew about this other relative of mine who caused the damage, and they all engaged in a long exchange of grievances about this relative. They were all accusing this relative of all sorts of mischief and how bad that person was and this and that. So they were bad-mouthing that relative. And this went on for maybe 20 minutes. I did not participate because I was not around when that happened. I wasn't even born, and or I was just a child, I don't know, depending on the exact timeline. And I also didn't know this relative all too well anyway. So I was just sitting there. I was listening as a third party, basically, as an objective observer. So what I thought is, yes, maybe this relative caused some mischief. There is a good chance that this relative was flawed and then did something wrong. Something which, in the grand scale of things, is not that bad anyway. I mean, to damage some property, okay, it is wrong. But it's not the end of the world, right? It's not like he went on a killing spree. Things happen. Mistakes happen. You broke something. You compensate with your work or with money, with financial compensation, and the case is closed. You don't need to bring it up 30 years later. You don't need to continue thinking about it for the rest of your life. It's not that big of a deal. So I thought that yes, there is a good chance that this relative was mischievous in some ways. Minor offenses, but offenses nonetheless. Okay, fine. But what caught my attention, what really intrigued me, was the context. This happened after church. All those people were at the church. And at the church, they preach and they say to forgive people, to forgive them for their transgressions, for their sins. And everyone is religious. Everyone in that case was a church-going, devout Christian, okay? I am not religious. So I thought to myself, these people believe certain things, but their deeds, what they are doing, do not match their words, do not coincide with those beliefs. They say one thing, they say to forgive, to love your relative nonetheless, but in practice they don't miss an opportunity to accuse the relative, to badmouth the relative, and generally to not be nice about the whole thing. So that caught my attention, and I kept thinking about it. I kept thinking, why do those people not act in accordance with what they are saying, in accordance with what they are believing? And my conclusion is that yes, they believe in forgiveness, they believe in all this, but they don't believe it for its own sake. They don't understand exactly what they believe in. They believe it only insofar as there is a reward attached to it, only insofar as it is a ritual, a kind of performance that gives them the good afterlife, that will lead them to paradise. So they only care about the appearance of it. They don't really care about the substance. They don't really care about what happens here and now in this life, because for them what matters is that they perform all those tasks that end in the good afterlife, in the reward of paradise. This connects to what I expounded at length in my previous video on self-improvement, where I covered the concept of entitlement. When we put in hard work, when we want to improve ourselves, we often do it for the wrong reason. We often do it because we are searching for something else. And the examples I used in the previous video were, for example, that I want to improve because I want to be rich. And there is nothing wrong with being rich, but understand that this is your goal, it's not self-improvement. I want to improve because I want companionship and sex. I want to improve because I want fame, etc. So you only care about self-improvement insofar as there is that reward at the end of it. And if you don't get that reward, your whole world collapses. You are disappointed. You are like, what's the point? What's the point of self-improvement? What's the point of doing, of performing all those tasks, of putting in all that hard work if I don't get anything out of it? I don't get anything in the sense of this reward at the end of the journey. Same with those people. They don't really care about forgiveness and being kind and all that. They only care about it to the extent that it guarantees them the ulterior reward, paradise. And thus, they completely misunderstand the substance. They are utterly oblivious to the whole point of forgiveness, or indeed of anything that improves us as human beings, of anything that improves us here, now, not in some afterlife. They completely miss that point. How does forgiveness improve us? When I say that it is about the here and now, what is it about forgiveness that makes us better? If we apply it in our life, if we make a habit out of it, if it is our natural response to what other people are doing, if it is our default disposition. Think about this relative again. 30 years and still feels the need to bring up something, feels the need to talk about an event of the past that is, in the grand scheme of things, inconsequential. A minor event that, in the mind of this relative, was a major thing. It was being aggrandized as this super important milestone in their life. And so, for all these decades, this person is carrying with them that burden, is carrying with them the memory, the grief, and all the other emotional responses attached to that memory. So this person has not been able to let go of the past, to leave it behind. So they are operating as if the past, as if that event that happened 30 years ago is still relevant, it is still applicable, when it is not. The first problem here is that there is an analytical error. An error in understanding the specifics of the case, the factors at play, the facts, as we say. The facts are that what happened 30 years ago is no longer applicable. So if you keep bringing up some old grudge, you don't recognize reality. As simple as that. That's the first problem. The second problem is one of disposition and habit. If you are in the mindset of holding grudges about things that are, in this case, inconsequential, right? Nonetheless, but of holding grudges in general, you won't do it just for one case. You will keep doing it for every case. You will keep having something bad to say about everyone, about every misstep in their life, every mistake. And so you will be accumulating all those memories, all those grievances, all those emotional responses that you have fastened upon these constructs, these ideas that you keep having in your mind. In other words, you are in the habit of accumulating lots of garbage. You are in the habit of taking with you all those burdens and carrying them on your back, all those burdens. and thinking that they have to be a part of you because in some way you find pleasure in them. In some way you think that they are yours and they define who you are, and it is nice that you have them. In some twisted sense, you like it. When you are in this habit of carrying burdens, you are not doing it for free, of course. You have limited resources. You have limited power. You cannot just carry all the burdens of the world and expect that it will be inconsequential, that it will have no effect on you. In reality, the more burdens you have, the more burdensome your life becomes. So you will sit at a table, for example, and you will not be able to enjoy the moment, to enjoy the company of your friends and relatives and loved ones, to just appreciate what is happening in the here and now. No, you will be hearkening back to the past. You will be invoking those memories, those ideas. You will be reliving those emotional responses. In a sense, you are still there. You have not been able to let go. Just a second, let's get through here. So you are not able to let go. By not being able to let go, you cannot live in the present. You cannot appreciate what the world has to offer for you in the moment. You cannot appreciate what is happening to you, and you cannot really have the appreciation of people and events that are present. Let me link this to the myth of Sisyphus. This is an ancient Greek myth. You may have heard of the name Sisyphus or Sisyphus. I forget now how it is spelled, so forgive me for that. Maybe I will write it down in the publication that will embed this video on my website. Sisyphus is a man who rolls a big rock, a boulder, uphill, up the mountain. And at some point the boulder rolls back down. And Sisyphus goes back to get the boulder and push it back up again. So Sisyphus is caught in this task for an eternity, basically. For the rest of his life, he has to do this. He has to keep chasing the boulder, keep trying to push it uphill, but the boulder is too big and he is too feeble to actually push it uphill and get over with his life, get to move on. What the myth encapsulates fundamentally is exactly this type of person who carries burdens with them. This type of person who thinks that they have ownership over those burdens. It's like, oh, these grievances, these memories, these ideas that I have are absolutely mine, and I am not letting go. And you have to walk up the mountain, and you don't recognize what the reality is, as I said already, analytically. You don't recognize what the reality is. You don't recognize that you are walking up the mountain, and this is a difficult climb, and you still want to carry all that burden. Where are you taking it? It's not yours. You are not taking it anywhere. It doesn't contribute anything to your life. Sisyphus and every person who carries burdens in this way is fundamentally misguided. They have this warped sense of taking pleasure in carrying those burdens, thinking that their being is fulfilled in this way. Thinking that if they let go of this burden, if they let go of those emotions, those associations, those concepts, they are letting go of part of their selfhood. It's like you are letting go of who you are. And you don't want to do that. You think that you will lose something. In truth, they are not losing anything. In truth, The person who will let go of the boulder is finally free to climb up the mountain, and from there to appreciate the vantage point, the new perspective, how those horizons open up. It's a whole new world, literally. Something that you could not see, something that Sisyphus could not see, because Sisyphus was obsessed with carrying that burden. Sisyphus was causing all that damage to himself. The person who carries burdens for 30 years, and by doing it as habitually for all their life, is a person that suffers continuously, is a person that has turned suffering into pleasure. I hear some dogs. Hopefully they will not come down to stalk me. So let me remain vigilant just a second. I have a dog, by the way, in case you don't know, and I am sort of an expert in handling dogs. But nevertheless, when there are 4 or 5 dogs together, they get a false sense of strength, and they can be reckless. So you have to be careful. Anyhow, so they are causing damage to themselves. Those people who keep carrying burdens are living in this, they are living and reliving this torment, this continuous, this repetitive motion of pushing the boulder, of it rolling down, and of them pushing it again. This is the myth of Sisyphus in a nutshell, and it describes people all around us. It describes people who do not understand forgiveness, people who can talk about forgiveness, people who will go to church and who will do the right motion and who will know all the prayers, blah, blah, blah. People who, in terms of performance, in terms of appearances, do everything right. In terms of appearances. In terms of substance, they are ignorant. In terms of substance, they are missing the point completely. In terms of substance, they are as far away from what they preach as it gets. Forgiveness is not about paradise. It's not about some reward in some other world. It's not about some ulterior end. Forgiveness is about the here, it is about the now. It is about your life as it is happening. When you learn to let go, you free your mind of burdens. There is a lightness to your disposition. You wake up and you have no stress. You have nothing bad to say about anyone. It does not register in your mind. You are in the habit of keeping this place clean. Clean of all that garbage. Clean of all that useless stuff that you keep accumulating. By keeping the mind clean, by not being disturbed by something that is not relevant anymore, you have the freedom, you have the luxury, you have the power to commit resources, literally to channel your energy to stuff that matters. To channel your energy, for example, towards thinking things through, towards being creative, towards aspiring to your highest. If part of your mental energy, if part of your resources is committed to all those burdens, if you have to carry a heavy burden uphill, you simply don't have the strength for it. You simply cannot do it. You have to let go of that burden in order to climb the mountain. You have to let go of all those grievances. You have to forgive in order to have the freedom to think, to be creative. And the result of that is that you are a good person. And you are a good person in the substantive sense. You are a good person in your quality, not in your appearances, not in the rituals that you perform, not in the role-playing game that you are participating in. You are good in the real sense. Those people who only care about appearances, who misunderstand the substance, don't understand who they are and what God is for them. They don't understand who they are in the sense that they think they are very important, in the sense that they believe to be entitled in some reward. To them, God is like a business partner. They are like, hey, God, hey, buddy, listen, I am performing all those rituals. I am doing all the good work. I pray, I participate, and I go to church every, I don't know how often, whenever is the requirement. I do this, I do that. I am great. I am devout. Now, you have to fulfill the end of your bargain and give me what I deserve. Paradise or whatever. Okay? So, they think that God owes them stuff. They think that they can fool what they consider an omniscient God. They think that their little tricks, these appearances, can actually fool a being that knows everything. So, of course, this does not work. They do not understand that they are not important. They do not understand that no force in this cosmos, whether you call it God, an omniscient and omnipotent God, whether you call it the gods of Olympus, whether you call it just nature or whatever, no force in this cosmos owes you anything. No force in this cosmos considers you specifically to be special. No force in this cosmos cares about your little game. If you are good, if you forgive, in this case, because this is the example I'm using now, if you forgive, you are doing it here, you are doing it now, you are doing it for its own worth. If there is a reward, if there is some consequence, so be it. When that moment comes, you will be there to live that moment. If it comes, okay, great. If it doesn't come, it doesn't matter, because you already had a good experience in the here and now. You had a good experience because you were not carrying any burdens, and also, by consequence, the other people had a good experience because you were not judgmental, you were nice to them. And of course, if everybody does this, we are all better off, right? When we are treating, in this case, God as a business partner, God as a party to a transaction, like a quid pro quo. I do this, so you will do that. When we do this, when we are in this, when we have this mindset, we don't know our limits. We don't understand that we are just human, that we are one in billions of humans and billions upon billions that have walked this earth. And we are just one animal in a cosmos that is practically infinite, that stretches far beyond what we can truly fathom. And yet we think that somehow The whole world revolves around us. Somehow, the whole universe is paying attention to our every motion, to every little thing that we do, and is watching in anticipation of what the next step will be. And the universe is waiting for us to see if we are doing everything right. Such a misplaced sense of importance. To truly think that is something truly absurd. There is an ancient Greek word, which is the other concept I want to cover, which is called hubris, hubris in Greek. Hubris, and as with many ancient Greek words, there is an H prepended to the I sound, but it is hubris. Hubris, we find it in many works of art, for example, in ancient Greek drama, and it describes the brand of cockiness that humans have, the sense of entitlement, the sense of importance, this misplaced belief that we are somehow too good, too strong, too smart, etc. So this cockiness that humans exhibit contrary to the constraints imposed upon them by their nature. In the myths and in the drama, humans are punished for their hubris by the gods. So the human will do something stupid, basically, and the god will punish them for it. But we don't really need to think of gods in this way in order to understand hubris. We can think of it without any kind of theological underpinnings. Consider, for example, the person who is driving a motorcycle on the highway. The roads are wet, it is raining, and this person is driving at full speed, and they are not even wearing protective gear. So no helmet, no Kevlar suit, nothing. So they are just like that. Just a second, I think I heard someone. No, we continue, sorry. So they are not wearing any protective gear, and they are driving at full speed in the highway. This person does not understand how fragile the human body truly is. This person does not understand that just a miscalculation, just a minor tweak in how the motorcycle is going, and this person is dead. So this person is committing hubris in the sense that this person does not understand their humanity. This person does not understand their mortality. This person does not understand their feebleness. Hubris, then, is when we do acts that run contrary to our limits, acts whose consequences will remind us of the simple truth that we often forget, the simple truth that we are human. I'm hearing some noises, some people talking. Let me go back, and I can take another road, so I can go through the mountains over there. So hubris reminds us, when we commit hubris, we are reminded, if we live, we are reminded that we are human. We are reminded that there are many things that are outside our control in this world. And we have to know our place in this world. We have to know that the whole world does not revolve around us. That not everything is a matter of our volition. Not everything in this universe happens to serve us. Like the whole world conspires in our favor. You want something and it happens. Just because you want it, just because you are so great. It doesn't work that way. Hubris is what Sisyphus was doing. Sisyphus is rolling that boulder, basically not understanding his limits, not understanding that he doesn't have all the strength it takes to carry the burden and to also climb the mountain. Furthermore, Sisyphus commits hubris because he does not understand that the boulder does not belong to him. He has no ownership over the boulder. He will not take it with him anywhere. That burden is not an extension of his self. It is not a necessary condition of his existence. It is alienable. It is something that he can let go. It is something that he can throw away and live without it just fine. But in committing the hubris of thinking that the boulder is his, that he has the strength, etc., he suffers. So the world, in the case of the myth, the gods are punishing him exactly because he is an idiot, exactly because he does not understand the fact that he is human. Other types of hubris, in case you don't want the theological aspect of it, which I don't want either anyway. Hubris is when you go to a party and you want to show that you are tough. You want to impress someone, or you want to show how cool you are. I don't know what your motive is, but you are like, let me show you how it's done. And you keep drinking the cocktails one after the other, and then some shots in between, and then more cocktails, thinking that you are okay. And you are like, no worries, this is normal, I am in control. And then minutes later you collapse. This is hubris. This is again hubris. To its extreme, you will die from intoxication, but even if you don't die, you are just showing how foolish you are. Hubris is everywhere in our life. It is prevalent. And whenever we don't recognize our limits, we are committing hubris. It is as simple as that. So it's not something that has to be a grand event and have all the gods involved. Okay, that's dramatization, that's artistic license to get the point across. This relative who cannot forgive, this relative who preaches forgiveness but practices the opposite of forgiveness, is committing hubris. This person is committing hubris because of the inability to understand what Sisyphus could not understand with regard to burdens, but also the inability to understand that the past is not present. The inability to recognize what the facts are, and in recognizing the facts, admit that some things are no longer relevant. And because they are no longer relevant, keeping them alive creates a contradiction. Creates a contradiction between what is actual and what is in our imagination, what we still think is there when it's not really there. And this hubris has a negative effect on one's mental state, on one's emotional state, because they are always revolving around negativity. They have too much negativity in their life, and they will associate with people who are like them negative, and they will amplify each other's negativity by regaling themselves with those negative stories, and they will keep doing that, reinforcing each other's burden. The hubris then is in not recognizing that we are temporal. The hubris is not recognizing that things are transient. From our perspective, we are not around forever. We cannot keep perpetuating the past. The past belongs to the past. It's done. It's over. We have to move on. We have to let go, and we have to understand what is happening here, what is happening now. And we have to live the few years of life that we have in a way that is not burdensome, in a way that is better for us, and by extension better for the others. I think of forgiveness and of self-improvement in general as something that you have to do for its inherent worth. I think that, let's say that there is God, and you are like, hey God, if I do those nice things, will you open the door to paradise? And let's say that God says no. Will you not do those good things? I think the person who only cares about paradise will not do those good things. They will not be interested in the here and now. They will not be interested in the inherent worth of those deeds. No. They are only interested in the entitlement. They are only there, they are only in it for the reward. So they think that they are special. They think that they have some kind of partnership with God. So the hubris then is in thinking fundamentally that you too are a God. The hubris in thinking is in thinking that you know more than you actually do. You know what God wants, you know how God acts, you know everything, and you are anticipating God's actions and God's decisions that affect you. So you don't understand that you are human. You don't understand what your place is. You don't understand that you are but a tiny factor in a world that you do not control. You do not understand that what informs, conditions, determines, or otherwise influences your experiences is not a matter of your planning, it's not a matter of your will. But because you think that you are some kind of an exalted being, because you think that you are partnering up with God, because you too think that you are a god of sorts, you disregard all that. You have no sense of reality. And you are assigning too much value to yourself. And in doing so, you are carrying this burden, you are holding all those grudges, and you are basically not being a nice person to others. So you are suffering and others are suffering as well. Let me take this road. So hopefully it will be quiet and nobody will interrupt me. There was a moment there earlier where someone was swearing and shouting and stuff. So hopefully you didn't get to hear it. But if you did, well, what can I do? It's outside my control. I can hear the water. The last week was a rainy week. There was lots of rainfall, but this is the normal weather. Even though we are, what was the date? 25 of October, something like that. Even though we are at the end of October, the temperature is close to 30 degrees. I can imagine down in by the coast, by the sea, the temperatures are basically, summertime. So yeah, they are having it that way. Anyhow, Forgiveness and hubris. We have an understanding of good things, an understanding of useful concepts in our life, which is ritualistic, an understanding which is about the performance. We care about the performative aspect of those precepts, of those lessons, of those concepts, and we lose sight of the substance. We forget what the actual value is. It eludes us because we only see the reward, we only want what is at the end of it, and we miss the point completely. Just a second, just to be mindful of the sun's position. So I have to be like this. Okay, so I'm climbing up a mountain now. That's nice. So we have this ritualistic understanding of those precepts, and we have this transactional attitude towards the end goal, and so we are not really nice. Let me tell you another story then. If you have watched previous videos of mine, you have seen me wearing a long beard. I used to have it up to my chest, and I was at a nearby village that has a monastery. It's a destination that lots of people go to. It's an attraction, and there are lots of religious people there. So there was this one person who is an insider. Let's put it this way, I don't want to be very specific, but you can understand what insider means in the context of the church. But let's keep it generic. So there was this insider, and he approaches me, and he is like, we talk, and he's like, you are an educated person. You have a sense, you have a good way with words. You seem to know your topics very well. You seem to be erudite. Have you considered becoming a priest? And I was like, no, I have not. I am in a different space, let's say. I have different interests and so on. And he was like, you will make a very good wage. And he cites a figure which is indeed a very respectable amount of money. And I am like, okay, but I don't really care about money. I am not above money, okay? I need money to live. But I wouldn't do something for the money, even though I am not into it. And he continues, he insists. And he's like, but if you are a priest, you will have people that respect you. People will come and kiss your hand. This is common. I don't know how it is in your culture, but it is common here to show respect towards the clergy by kissing their hand. So people will kiss your hand. They will respect you greatly. And I was like, okay, now that you said this, there is zero chance that I will become a priest, because I don't want anyone to respect me because I just wear black robes, or because I have a beard, or because I appear to be a man of God. Because this is the ritualistic understanding of those precepts. This is the performative aspect. Let me kiss the hand of the man of God in order to be closer to God, in order to be in God's favor, in order to get the ulterior reward. But otherwise in my life, I will be totally oblivious to the substance. My deeds will not match my words, my beliefs. So I was like, no thanks. I don't care about rewards. I don't care about status. I am not interested in admirers. I'm not interested in followers. I don't care about social points. What I am interested in is in the approximation of the truth, is in the elucidation and clarification of concepts. This is what philosophy is about. It is not about becoming popular. It is not about having a following. It is not about maintaining a school, a dogma, a tradition. Philosophy is just the quest for the truth, the approximation of the truth. And the philosopher who is honest about this, who is consistently philosophical, will not cling on to their own beliefs. The philosopher is not team, I don't know, Platonism or team skeptic or team whatever. This has nothing to do with philosophy. This parochialism, this clan-based approach has nothing to do with philosophy. The philosopher will change their mind if cogent counter-arguments are supplied. And I genuinely believe in this. I genuinely change my mind. Because I am not in it to promote my theory, to promote my school of thought or whatever. I posit some ideas, some hypotheses, some views, but fundamentally I am interested not in those views, but in approximating the truth to the extent that I can with the means available at my disposal, given that I am human, etc. Hubris then, and forgiveness, and substance and entitlement. We are not entitled to anything, as I also said in my previous video. We are not entitled to fame, money, sex, companionship, love, friends, whatever you name it. We are not entitled to paradise, we are not entitled to health, we are not entitled to anything. What we do has an effect on the here and now. Whether it has an effect in some afterlife, we don't really know. We believe that we know. We say that others have confirmed it. But are we sure? Do we really believe it? We want to believe it, yes. But are we certain? Is it irrefutable? I don't think so. I am not convinced. I was born and raised in Greece, in case you don't know, and now I live in Cyprus. These are two religious countries. These are countries with centuries of tradition in the Greek Orthodox belief, the Greek Orthodox creed. So of course I am familiar with all the concepts. And in my years I have not been convinced. They have failed to convince me. And it's not just an intellectual affair. It's also what I see in everyday life. When I see people being hypocrites, the most devout are the most hypocritical most of the time, in my experience. When I see people acting in a certain way and saying something that contradicts those acts, I have to raise a warning flag. I have to wonder what is going on here. What's the point? Which is the truth? Is it the act or is it the belief? And if it's the belief, why isn't the act conducted in accordance with the belief? Why isn't the deed informed by the belief? This is also why I say that my philosophy is practical, because I am not interested in saying things that sound nice, in saying things that make me smart, in saying things that are profound and wise or whatever. I don't care about any of that. I am interested in saying things that are applicable. I am interested in doing things that are consistent with what I say. And I have covered this in previous videos as well. I don't need to expound on it again. Oh, it's very warm, and I am going up the mountain as well, so it's a tricky excursion, folks. In short, I am interested in the connection between the deed and the belief and the precept. I don't care about chit chat. I don't care about nice words. I don't care about one who preaches. I don't care about preaching. I want to see acts. I want to see actual good behavior. I know the words, I know the stories, but I want to see the action. I want to see what you have learned from them. I want to see what is the substance that you have gathered. Where am I going? I shouldn't go this way. Let me head the other way. I want to see what you have learned, what you have discerned as the meaning. It's fine to recite a book. Did you learn anything though? And this applies to every religion. It's not just about the examples that I have covered here. This applies to every religion, because as humans we tend to have those beliefs of ritualism, of doing the rituals without understanding what we are doing, and of the transactional aspect to self-improvement, of this notion that we will do it just because there is some benefit at the end, just because there is a reward, but otherwise we don't really care. So I want the substance, I want action, I want to see it in practice. No more chit chat. Don't say one thing and do another thing. It is a bit like the doctor, you know, the medical expert, who has written and has read about all the bad things that happen to you when you are a smoker, and who will tell you everything about it. The foremost expert. And as they are talking, as they are expounding on the evils of smoking, they will need to take a break and go light a cigarette. I'm sure you have seen that kind of medical expert, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't care about that person. I have no interest in that person whatsoever. I care about the medical expert who talks about health and who lives in a healthy way. That is the person I want to follow. That is the person I want to learn from. That is the person who is honest. That is the person who understands who they are and what they are saying and what they are doing. That is the person I trust. The rest, I am afraid, they cannot be trusted. That's all for today, folks. Let me show you the view, what I'm seeing now, because I am in the winelands. Let me switch to the rear camera. So, I don't know how well you can see the colors here. So, we are, of course, at the end of October. So, the colors are turning warmer. And you can see. So, these are just some vineyards. And there are other trees as well back there. I'm not sure what that orchard over there is. I'm not sure what they have there. But yeah, It's very warm. I will head back because I'm very far away from home. Switching to my camera. So I will turn back because I have wandered a long way from home. That's all for today, folks. When you are studying something, when you are learning something, when you are talking about some value, don't say too many things. Try to be modest. Try to understand that as a human, you are not omniscient. As a human, you make mistakes. As a human, you are not perfect. So don't say too many things. Practice your beliefs. Don't try to impose your views on another person because your views as a human may be wrong. But practice what you believe in, and let the others see the truth in what you do because you are doing it, not because you are saying it. And if they follow, they will follow because they have seen the truth. It's not because you imposed it on them. It's not because you are too loud. That's all for today, folks. Thank you very much for your attention. Goodbye. Take care.